Bum 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 ba na 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 Alright, what's happening, party people? Welcome to Punchboard Party. My name is Daniel, and in this video I'm talking about my shelf of shame. I am exposing myself in this video. Okay, I'm exposing my shelf of shame. I'm hoping to keep this video a bit more casual because I have a lot to go through, because shame is the right word when I look and I see what I have in front of me and I think, oh. But first, before I get started, I was really struggling with what constituted your shelf of shame. So I'm gonna go through two batches of shelf of shame. First, I'm gonna go through the games that I have played different copies of but haven't played my own copy of. And then I'm gonna go through my proper shelf of shame, games that I have never played before, bought them so I could play them and still haven't gotten them to the table. I can't start this video yet. As part of this, I also wondered if you have just bought games, are those also in your shelf of shame? Okay, let's do this. Just one moment, folks. So yes, I had lots of questions. I wondered if you have just received games that you ordered, do those go immediately into your shelf of shame if you haven't played them yet? Or is there a grace period where they are not in your shelf of shame? And so I'm going to include them in my shelf of shame because they are now technically in my collection, yet I have not played them yet. I've just included everything that I could possibly construe to be shameful for me not getting them to the table. I'm going to talk about them and why they're on my shelf of shame and which ones I want to get played sooner than others. So anyways, I'm not going to show you what these are yet. I'm going to reveal them like secrets like the other ones, but these are going to be just kind of hanging out in the back here. Oh, that's a hefty boy. Oh, and this one is bigger, but much lighter. Okay, you see that? These are my musings. I just wonder, so let me know. I'll try and be as quick as possible. This will probably be a buckle in a little bit. And so we'll see. So yes, down below, let me know, what does shelf of shame mean to you? And let's get going on this. First off, I want to talk about Egizia. This was a grail game for me for the longest time, and I played it when it first went out of print. This was in 401 Games when I first started going. There we go. When I first started going to 401 Games to buy games, there was one last copy there, and I saw it all the time, and I didn't realize that the game was as highly renowned as it is. And so I just kept on passing it by, and then when I realized that it was a game worth getting, it was gone. And so I just missed it. And a buddy of mine, he got it for 10 bucks from someone who didn't realize that it was out of print and that it was highly sought after. And so I got to play it, and I really enjoyed it and loved it ever since I started playing it. It has a really great kind of, now it's more known as a Takedo mechanic, but this came first, where you move a boat down a river to do actions, but you can't do any of the actions that you pass over getting to that action that you've chosen. And so it's kind of this like game of chicken where you're like, do I want to do the best actions that I see, or do I want to do more of less good actions? And so you go down. But anyway, this has since gotten a reprint and was available for a while, and I passed it up then, and then I just found this on Kijiji, and I said, okay, no, I'll finally pick it up. This is the edition that I've always kind of liked and wanted. And so I got it, and I just played it by myself, just kind of figuring out the rules, and realized that at 2 players it doesn't really work that well, so I haven't played it yet. Didn't want to put Sarah through that. So I've played it before, but not this copy, and again, Grail game, but just kind of ends up on the shelf. How about you guys in your Grail games? Once you get them, do you immediately want to play them, or are you just satisfied that you've gotten them? I kind of just, I'm like, oh, it's there, I have it. and I'm content at that point. Okay, so this is Headlock Paper Scissors, and this is designed by some buddies of mine. And I play tested this game, so I got this as a gift sort of for play testing it. And I really like this game, but I have not played it since, only because of pandemic. This works better at larger player counts. It plays 3 to 6 players. And so it's this really fun rock, paper, scissors on steroids, but you do different hand gestures to indicate certain moves that you're doing. And basically you're just trying to get up the ladder to get the championship belt. And I'm a huge fan of WWE, so I just love the theming of this game. I love the wrestlers who are in this game. And I just really enjoyed the game when I play tested it, and I'm excited for when things open up a bit and I can play this because it'd be perfect for starting out a game night. So I'm just excited to finally do that. Okay, again, another friend of the designer, so Sengfun Lim, he designed this game as well as the last game I just showed you. And so I've played this multiple times. All of my buddies, we all got copies, and so we just kind of played one another's copy, and we just didn't get around to playing mine. Again, really fun game, push your luck, dice game. I really enjoy it. I think it's just sort of like you accumulate cards and get more and more powerful until you're finally able to defeat Batman. And I kind of call these games sort of hot potato games, where you're just kind of you're passing the turns around until someone is finally able to accomplish the goal. And I just like that, you know? There's something fun and tense about waiting to see who's actually gonna be able to pull it off. So next on the list, this is really sweet. So I was just kind of having a bit of a stressful time, and Sarah, of the kindness of her heart, just drove by a game store and just bought a game for me to just make me feel better. And so she chose Call to Adventure Stormlight Archive because she knows that I love the Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson. And the game store guy just said that this was a great game. And the cool thing about Call to Adventure is that people often talk about it as like a storytelling game. Curtis is gonna get mad at me because he loves the fact that you kind of build a character and build a story as you play this game. That doesn't come out super strong for me. This game is fits into the category of Splendor, Century Spice Road, this kind of like quick engine building style game where you are playing cards to gain resources, to get more cards. And so, but I love that style of game. And so anyway, played my buddy Curtis's copy of this, really enjoyed it. So I'm excited to get it back to the table myself. When I played with Curtis, I didn't do so well. There's a few things in this game that were hard for me to get my head around initially. So I'm excited to play it more. And I think this will be a game that will just always come to the table just every now and then because it's sweet. But until I actually sit down and kind of relearn the rules, this isn't getting to the table. Sarah and I tried to get it to the table, and I realized that it was just a little outside my grasp in the moment to teach her, and so it is still waiting on the shelf. So again, Castles of Mad King Ludwig is a game that I have played only a couple times really, but it is an excellent game. If someone were to ask me, what do you think is a near perfect game, or what do you think is a perfect game objectively? Not necessarily my favorite, but just a game that I think is perfect. Castles of Mad King Ludwig is what I would tell them. I think this is perfectly designed. I think it is amazing fun. I think the design choices, the choices of mechanisms, how the auction mechanism works, how the scoring works, where you're trying to put down rooms next to each other, and some rooms get minus points for being next to certain rooms and others get bonus points for being next to certain rooms. Just how that all works in an auction style game, where when it's your turn, you're setting the price of these different rooms, trying to outsmart your opponents by making what they want more expensive, but not too expensive, because they're going to be paying you at the end of that auction phase. I just think it's brilliant. But when we play this, we typically play Scott's copy, and so I don't know if my copy is ever going to get played, because I'm not personally ever like drawn to playing it, because while it is an amazing game, it's quite ugly as far as I'm concerned, and boring looking. So I'm not drawn to playing it, but then once we're playing it, holy, I realize, why am I waiting to play this? This is so good. Now, Sen's gonna get mad at me because I'm all of his games I haven't got to the table yet. Now, this is a game that I have not played yet. Why is it over here? That's not right. That was the wrong pile. Zulkin buying calendar. You might have heard me talk about this a little bit before. So Sarah and I tried to play this for the first time at a board game cafe because I heard it was really good. And we were so confused. We had no idea what we were doing, how to play it. And it was so hard. It was so hard and unforgiving. And we just did not understand what was going on. So we just gave up and played something else. Finally, during the pandemic, we played it on Board Game Arena, me and my game group. And the first game, it kicked our butts. Like we were just like, how do we work this out? It has this really cool mechanism where you put your workers out on these gears, and each turn, the big gear in the center turns, and so it turns all the other gears, and the actions or items that your workers will gain you get better and better as they go around these gears. But you have to time it right because you only have a certain amount of workers to put out, and then once you have put out all your workers, you have to start taking workers back. And so you might not necessarily get what you want. And so it's a real brain burner, really crunchy game. But the second time we played on Board Game Arena, it all clicked for us. Holy, it's one of those games where like once you figure out the puzzle of it, you can do really well and you feel a lot more free in the game. It doesn't feel as restrictive. And so as soon as I started feeling that way about the game, I made sure I got myself a copy. And last, Castles of Burgundy. I bought this a long time ago, probably 3 years ago almost. And I bought it with Bora Bora. I played Bora Bora quite a bit, but didn't play Castles of Burgundy. And recently I sat down and I played a full game of Castles of Burgundy, this copy, by myself. And so I wasn't sure whether to count it or not because I just set up a 2-player game and I just went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I enjoyed it so much that I played through the whole thing. I only intended to play a couple rounds, but I ended up playing through the entirety of the game and really enjoyed myself. But again, it's a hard sell for Sarah because it looks but ugly and really boring. And so the only way to convince Sarah that this is amazing is to play it with her. And it's hard to sell. It's a hard sell to get to the table. So I don't know. There are all the games that I have played, but not necessarily my copies of. So here's what I'm considering the Shelf of Shame proper. These are games that I have not played before. First on the list is the party game, Blockbuster. Family knew I love board games and movies. And so they thought, well, this is perfect, right? So this is Blockbuster Returns. And, like, I hate to punch a gift horse in the mouth, but I would have really loved, my brother-in-law said, I really tried to convince him to get you point salad. And I said, thank you, brother, But that being said, Sarah and I did flip through this and we kind of played a little 2-player version of this. I guess it should have been in the other pile, really, but we played a little 2-player version of this to get a feel for it. And you know what? It is quite fun. It's just fun trivia. I always kind of turn my nose up at like trivia-based party games because it's like they're not modern hobby board games, but then I forget that they're actually fun. There's a reason why people buy them and play them. There is a fun factor to be had there, so I shouldn't be too snooty. So Blockbuster, when things open up, I can see myself playing this, again, probably with family, and having a good time. So the Grizzled, I picked up from a buddy. He just had a pile of games when I was over at his house one time, and he said, hey, like, just pick up what you want. And so I picked up this and never got to the table. Basically why it was in his pile was that it doesn't really work well with 2. So this is a cooperative game where you're trying to play cards in a certain order. If you have to play a card and it's a card that you're not supposed to play, then you lose. And so you're just trying to do that. And there's a really kind of stark, dark theme of being in the trenches in World War II, I think, or maybe 1. I just haven't gotten to the table because I haven't been able to play it with the right player count, and then when I do have the right player count, I haven't learned the rules yet. So I just have to sit down, learn the rules so that I'm ready for when I have the right game group, I can play this. So we'll see how that goes there. Chocolate Factory, Matthew Dunstan, co-designed with Brett Gilbert. I consider Matthew Dunstan and Brett Gilbert some of my favorite designers of all time, and I've only played one of their games. I've only played Elysium, and I love Elysium. I love it so much. So when I see Matthew's name, I just like go. Sorry, I've played relic runners, and I really like relic runners too. But Chocolate Factory, I got it used, found it on Kijiji. I bought it at the same time as I bought Runestones, really enjoyed Runestones. And I always find that when I buy games in pairs, I tend to only play one of them and the other one kind of gets lost in the dust. And so I still haven't gotten this to the table. This has just this really cool conveyor belt mechanic where you are producing different resources like cocoa, and then you can turn that cocoa into 2 different kinds of chocolate, and then you can turn those into boxes of chocolate, and you're moving them along your factory board, and you kind of set up your factory with different cards that allow you to build your engine essentially, so your factory gets better at producing these kind of boxes of chocolates and things. And then there's candy stores that are kind of order fulfillment things, and so it just looks really good. It's just like a streamlined, simple, light to medium weight Euro game, really in my wheelhouse. So I can't wait to try it, but I don't know when that's going to happen. Okay, so this one is funny. You might have heard me talk about this a couple times. So Bonfire, Steffenfeld. I've really fallen in love with Steffenfeld lately, especially because of Bora Bora. Bora Bora really helped me fall in love with Steffenfeld. Really, a lot of the times his designs are heavy and chunky and hard to get your head around initially, not great for beginner gamers. Sarah doesn't love heavy board games typically, but she did really enjoy Bora Bora. There was a season where we played Bora Bora quite a bit. So I thought everyone was talking about Bonfire and how it reminded them of Bora Bora or that genre of Steffenfeld. And I thought, great, that's what I love about Steffenfeld. I'm going to pick up Bonfire. And so I got a hold of it. Sarah and I have tried to play this twice. On 2 separate occasions, we have gotten this to the table and have not gotten it played. The first time, Sarah fell asleep during the rules explanation. I couldn't be mad. It was hilarious. It was really funny. I just thought, okay, this is not going to happen. Then the second time, got through the rules. Sarah was exhausted by the rules end. And then our boys, we have a 2 and a 4-year-old, they woke up and we had to get them back to bed. And by the time that happened, it was too late to actually play the game. So this is just a casualty of long playtime, heavy, hard rules explanation. We usually only start playing games at around 9:30 or so. And Sarah doesn't love to stay up late. And so it's hard to play heavier games with a longer playtime because of those factors. So Bonfire, really excited to play it, but not sure when that's gonna happen. Probably with my game group once we start meeting in person again. So here's the game you already saw when I took it from the wrong pile. This is another design from Sen, and he dropped off a couple games at my doorstep. We were kind of in our second wave of lockdown. He kind of put a call out on Facebook saying hey, who could use a pick-me-up? And my buddy Curtis reached out to him and said, I think Daniel could really use it. Because I haven't really talked about this at all, but I started this YouTube channel during a period of my life where I recently left my job. I worked for a church. I worked for different churches for a long time. And I just kind of came to a point where I just wasn't happy in the role. And so I decided to leave. I really felt called by God to leave. And so I made that choice. But since then, so it's been 7-8 months and still haven't worked. So I've poured myself into this YouTube channel during that time. And I've been, bummed out about it in certain areas. Things are starting to look up. There's some pretty good job prospects happening now. And so I'll have some good news for you soon. But I didn't want to talk about it before I had good news. Curtis thought that I could be a good benefactor for these games, and this was one of them. It really has kind of a cult following where people are saying that this is an excellent game. It just kind of flew under the radar. People didn't hear about it, and it got a real hidden gem quality to it. And especially since Sarah and I recently played Keyforge, and I really liked Keyforge, and I don't want to pin this in as if it's a Keyforge type game, but it is like a tactical head-to-head card game. And so I'm just really excited to play this because I hear it's really good, deserves way more love than it gets, and I've just kind of fallen in love with that kind of head-to-head card play genre, and so I'm really excited to give this a go. Oh, this is hefty. If you've opened the box of this is there's so much stuff in Dinosaur Island. There's just dice and dinos and player boards and just all sorts of good stuff in there. Now am I gonna get it closed again? I don't know. So Dinosaur Island, this again, I bought it with a few other games. I think I bought it with Everdell and Villainous, maybe. Everdell and Villainous and Dinosaur Island. And so Everdell got played, and that kind of took sort of, not that Everdell is heavy, but it just takes up table space, and it's a longer explanation, and it's a longer play time, and that kind of thing. And then Villainous got played, and Dinosaur Island just never got played. Is it heavy? Now, again, I heard this described as a medium weight game recently, and so I always thought it was heavy, so maybe I just got it wrong, so I just have to kind of relook into this. I knew the rules explanation was pretty lengthy, and I know there's a short, like you can play a short, medium, or long version of the game, so that's really helpful. I just don't know how long those versions of the game actually are. But again, that's the first question that Sarah has for me. How long does it take to play? How long does it take to explain? This kind of thing. And so I never had the confidence to say, oh yeah, I can teach it to you, no problems. I gotta do more work at learning this game before I get to the table. But I really like the idea of a Jurassic Park type game where you're building your own dinosaur theme park and hoping that your guests don't get eaten. So that's exciting. Less excited to actually play this now because Dinosaur World is coming out and that looks way cooler. So who knows, I might just hold off and just play that instead. Deus, I talked about this a couple months ago in a video where I talked about buying used board games and how I traded Runestones for Deus, and I still haven't gotten Deus played. And I'm sad about that. I just want to get played. But again, it's like when you're Grail games, you get them. For me, it's just kind of the satisfaction of getting them, and I don't necessarily get them to the table. Again, so I really want to get this to the table because what I want to do, because when it first came out around the same time as Elysium, and so I kind of want to do a comparative video and kind of do like a back in time, like if we were back in 2014, this is the kind of video I would do comparing Deus to Elysium, and so I kind of want to do that still. So we'll see if that happens. Taverns of Tiffin. Again, I bought this with Quacks of Quedlinburg, and so this is another casualty of, I bought two games at the same time, one of them got played, one of them didn't. And again, I just love dice worker placement, dice drafting, this kind of stuff. I love the push your luck element that this game has, where you basically deal out cards from your deck that you've accumulated, and you're filling up tables. And then once your tables are full, you have to stop drawing from your deck. And so it kind of limits what actions you could do. Just a solid medium weight game, on the lighter side even, and looks really fun. So I'm really eager actually to learn this and get this to the table. It's like I'm always thinking about playing this game. I think it'll make a really good video too. So we'll see if that actually happens or not. Okay, so now we're getting to the In Shrink games. So there's two games here that are brand new that I bought. And yeah, I'll just talk about those right now. So you saw me taking them out of the box. And so first up is Hadrians Wall. People are talking about this quite a bit. This is like the heaviest roll and write you've ever seen, literally and metaphorically, where you have two full sheets of paper with rows that you are going to be filling in based on resources, that every player gets the same set of resources at the beginning of the round, and you spend those to fill in spaces, and then when you fill in spaces, sometimes you get more resources that you can later spend, and so it's all about just making your turn as long as it possibly can be. So Hadrian's Wall, really excited to play this. I don't imagine this staying on my shelf of shame for very long at all. This is the first thing played as far as I'm concerned. And then with it, I got 4 Gardens. Like, I really love light games. I love medium, like medium weight Euro is my jam, but like a light game that I can play with as many people as possible that still keeps me engaged is something that I'm very much into. And so what really gets me pumped about 4 Gardens, again, it's a little gimmicky, but I think it's a gimmick that really works. There's this pagoda that has 4 levels. You rotate it throughout the game, and you're gonna get the resources based on what side of the pagoda is facing you. And the card indicates if you're gonna take resources from the top down or the bottom up, and that matters because you can only store so many resources. So if the pagoda's not lined up in the right way, you might end up with resources that you don't actually need while you were trying to get resources that were higher up or lower down on the pagoda that you actually wanted. So there's a real cool puzzle there to figure out, as well as just a very simple set collection mechanism happening there. So very excited to play Four Gardens and tell you guys all about it for sure. Last but not least, some of you will know what this is. This is probably my biggest sin as a board gamer. This is the biggest blight on my shelf of shame. This is Pandemic Legacy. Collective gasp from everyone. I've had this for about a year now, and we thought that it would be really fun to play during the pandemic. And we hear that it works really great for two, so Sarah and I were really excited to spend some more of our evenings together, because like we have two young kids, and we were in a stint there for a long time where we didn't get them to bed until pretty late, and then we were exhausted and we just didn't spend more time together. Now we got the bedtime routine kind of down pat, and we're spending a lot more time in the evenings together anyway. But better reason to get this to the table. And I think what's intimidating me is just having to play 12 or 16 games of the same game. And like every time Sarah and I are going to play, we're going to be playing this. And just that kind of commitment to a game gets me freaked out a little bit. Not that I don't think I'm going to enjoy it. I think I'm going to enjoy it a lot. But Pandemic Legacy, Season 1, still haven't played it. And I know I need to. So there's my shelf of shame, folks. There's my shelf of shame. That's what I'm talking about today. I hope you enjoyed going through that with me. It's kind of too much. So maybe I should come up with a plan to get these games played so that I don't feel so bad, or at least just cycle them out of the collection if they're not getting played at all. Anyways, I want you in the comments down below to tell me which of these games you think Sarah and I need to play next. Again, thank you, party people, for hanging out with me for this lengthy video, and let me know down in the comments what your shelf of shame consists of. Okay, until next time, party people, have the best day.